Felina, the final episode of Breaking Bad, is one of my least favorite series finales to a television show of all time. Please don't shoot, please don't kill me, I will explain. I think it's an excellent episode. I think it's top 5 of Breaking Bad for sure. It's very tightly constructed and creates this kind of good send-off for the character. But if we're looking at the broader kind of themes and ideas presented for the viewers of Breaking Bad, it just does not work on a very foundational level. I think that Better Call Saul understood that and changed its finale because of how Felina ended up. But I think that if we're looking at the reasons why Breaking Bad was made and the thematic messages the creator is trying to drive home, both through this series, through its sequel, prequel series, and through various interviews he's given, I think Breaking Bad's finale just really misses the mark in a lot of very important ways. I think that Walter White as a character gets off far too easy in this finale, which might surprise you. I mean, spoilers, he dies, but overall, I do not think it is a fitting end to his arc at all because it's perfect. Strangely, that is the main word I would use to describe Felina. Perfect. Everything happens perfectly. Nothing goes wrong for Walter White. Everything, every little piece of this plan to return home and kind of reclaim his legacy, give his family his money, and take out these men who have wronged him, all of it goes off without a hitch. He does everything perfectly. Walt has been shown throughout the entire series to be a genius, an excellent strategist and planner and mastermind manipulator, but he's not perfect. He makes mistakes all the time, except this final episode where everything seems to go exactly his way. I get that he's been kind of sitting out on his own in the Granite State for so long at this point and has had some time to plan, but it is very much a very impulsive move. He was clearly waiting for people to arrest him in the previous episode, but this interview of his partners in Gray Matter spurs him to come back and launches this plan into action. And I think that for being something that was seemingly formed on the fly, it doesn't really make sense to me to be this well formed and this perfectly executed. I think Breaking Bad as a show needed a bittersweet finale. It needed something that left fans both happy for how it concluded, but overall sad as to what happened to some of the characters. This finale that we did get, Felina, is like tooth-rottingly sweet. Everything happens exactly according to Walt's plans, as I've said, and overall, it just as a package focuses more on kind of gratifying both the character and the audience than providing any larger thematic resonance. Before we go any further, I want to share something said by Vince Gilligan, the creator and one of the main writers of Breaking Bad. Quote, "All of us feel a universal human desire that the universe be a just one. It's important on this show that actions have consequences, and it was just as important on Breaking Bad. Every now and then, it seems as though we have no control of the world we live in, but we get to control the characters for whom we write. It's pleasing to me to have there be karma that kicks in and ultimate justice, because I don't know if we have that in real life." I think that's a very important sentiment in Breaking Bad as a whole and in Better Call Saul. It reminds me of a quote, I think from the season 3 premiere of Better Call Saul, of the aviator coming into Saul's office and saying that the wheel is going to turn for him. We see a number of characters find kind of karmic justice in their end game. Spoilers for both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, obviously here, but we see Gus Fring destroyed by the vengeance that had driven him for so long. We see Jimmy McGill placed in jail and finally face justice for all of those he wronged, be it the people hurt by Walter White or his brother Chuck. We see Mike destroyed by these cycles of violence he perpetuated, and in his final act trying to escape, just being brought down by a man he helped create. All of it makes sense, and all of these arcs kind of go front to end. They have this kind of ring to them, this karmic sense of, yes, what's happening to this character is right, it is what they deserve. You might be saying, Quinn, you're crazy. Walt dies. That's what better karmic justice could exist than that? But I mean, Walt was going to die anyway. A main thrust of the final half of the last season of Breaking Bad is that Walt's cancer is back. He is slowly dying. He expresses to Hank in the final episode that even if he was able to arrest him, to assemble that much evidence, he would likely die before he spends any time in jail, especially with a lawyer as great as Saul Goodman. Given the fact that Walter White was doomed to die beforehand, it really doesn't make sense that his ultimate karmic justice is just going to be to die on his own terms in a blaze of glory, killing all of the people that he wanted to kill. It just really doesn't make sense from a karmic standpoint. If Walt had done something to redeem himself, I could see this being a fitting end, but he's just kind of a bastard to the end. He fully is Heisenberg in these last few episodes. We see the only good parts of Walter White be stripped away, and he's left with only his vengeance and his hatred to stew for a year in the frigid north. I'm sure this opinion that I am voicing is at least a tad controversial. Let me know in the comments what you think. Please don't kill me while you're down there. And if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe. I do really appreciate it, and it is free. If we're looking at karmic justice in the Breaking Bad finale, I think it's great for literally everyone except for its main character. Skylar and her kids are able to be provided for by this money that Walt has bled to earn, as they've really done not much wrong. Specifically, the kids are the ones getting the money in the form of this scholarship from Gretchen and Elliot, as Skylar is semi-guilty of having helped in laundering the money, but she was still kind of coerced into doing so. Skylar White is not as bad a character as many people say. I will defend that till the day I die. She's no Kim Wexler, but she's still a fantastic character. Additionally, Jesse is finally able to be free. We see his kind of karmic scale continue to be balanced in El Camino as we see him finally get away to Alaska, which is great. We see all of the Nazis that Walt worked with gunned down. We see Lydia killed by her own favorite drink. All of this makes sense. All of these characters are receiving fitting ends, and Walt is just kind of the odd man out, which is bizarre because he is the one character that is the central focus of Breaking Bad. I think there's danger in the way that Walter White is presented in this final episode. Specifically, given the fact that he gets everything he wants and everything goes exactly according to his plan, it makes it seem as though the show is kind of glorifying his actions throughout the entire series. I don't think Breaking Bad is intending to do that, and I think that one scene in particular really indicates that, which I'll get to in a minute. But I think that Walt being this individual who is just doing everything the way he thinks he should in this finale just makes it seem as though the show is endorsing everything he wants to do. And given that this is the last episode, I think it is part of the lasting cultural image of Walter White. Given that there's such a positive outlook in this final episode, he's such a badass. He killed everyone he was supposed to kill. He really did everything. It just kind of creates this image of Walter White as maybe more of a hero than he should have been, and more than the show depicts him for the rest of its runtime. I think that this finale is very kind of looking back with rose-tinted goggles, because I think that looking at it, it just depicts Walt in a much more positive way than its previous episodes. There is one scene that I really like from a thematic standpoint, and I wish there was more of this in the finale, that being Walt and Skylar's final conversation. The big moment, obviously, and the one that so many people point to, is Walt finally admitting, "I did it for me. I liked it. I was good at it." It's obvious to us who have watched it for so long that this is obviously why Walt is going to do anything that he's going to do. He's someone who's very obsessed with his self-image and ego and what he himself is capable of, but to finally hear him admit it is a massive point of clarity for both the character and the show. A show like The Sopranos, I think, has a similar kind of character arc of its main character with Tony compared to Walt, in that both people have this kind of moral decay as the series goes on. With The Sopranos, Tony's delusion never slips to himself. He always thinks he's justified, he's the good guy, he's in the right, what have you. Walter White in this finale is able to acknowledge the fact that yes, he did what he did for entirely selfish reasons. It was not for his family. It was not to provide, except for maybe the initial motivations. It was really to just show what he himself was capable of. And I think that that really creates a better image of him as a character going forward and past the finale. I do think this is the sharpest scene on offer in this episode, but it is a double-edged sword, specifically because I think it paints a different image of Walt than we've seen for the prior, I think, 61 episodes. That's off the dome. Check me, editing Quinn, if that's correct. I think that Walt is someone who is so wrapped up in his self-image and delusion as a family man, someone who is doing everything he does for his family. That's just something that he continually repeats and repeats and repeats throughout the entire series. And having this moment of honesty at the end, I think, has left some viewers with the impression that, oh, he had this impression the entire time. He was always very honest with himself. Walt was a good guy at heart. He was really just, it was the core of good that persisted despite this illusion of Heisenberg that existed. However, I don't think that's the case. If you go back and watch even the first episode of Breaking Bad, Walt is an annoying and weird guy, even from the very start. He's very egomaniacal even before he's Heisenberg. I think that core of kind of selfish desire and focus on self-image has always been there. The thing thing with Breaking Bad for me is that Heisenberg is not a new development. Walter White always was and always is Heisenberg. It's just the degree to which he decides to express it that changes throughout the entire series. In thinking about this, I am having trouble figuring out what would have been a better finale for Breaking Bad, how things could have wrapped up in a more thematically resonant and consistent way for its main character. One main thing for me is I don't think Walt's cancer should have come back in the final season. Yes, it does add a wrinkle to Hank's investigation into him and the idea of arresting him, throwing him in jail, what have you. I don't think it is worth that, though, to have this doomed man throughout the entirety of the final season. I think part of what makes every season past two so good is the fact that every time Walt is doing something, he is actively making a choice to continue, despite the fact that he's no longer dying and no longer has to pay for these medical treatments. Additionally, I could see, if he's not dying, maybe him being taken into custody and arrested, being some form of greater justice, or otherwise his legacy being kind of further destroyed. It's unclear exactly how that might have been, and being taken into justice might have kind of diminished the capacity, if I'm using lawyer terms, of the Better Call Saul finale and kind of lessen the impact there. I'll probably title this video something like, I hate the Breaking Bad finale. That's not quite true. I'm a big fan of this show and this episode, as I mentioned, top 5 episode, but I do think it kind of thematically muddies what could be such a great total package in Breaking Bad. And I think in being the final episode, it has some unique lingering drawbacks to the image and perception of both the series and Walter White as a whole. I think that Better Call Saul very much understands that. It's never directly commented on, and I've never seen Gilligan talk about this, but I think that Breaking Bad's finale very much inspired the response of Better Call Saul in its entirety, all of these arcs for these characters, and most notably how it ends in Saul Gone. I think that Saul Gone is a fantastic and near perfect episode, in case you couldn't tell, as Better Call Saul is my favorite show. I do like it more than Breaking Bad, but that is just one man's opinion. And most importantly, it doesn't tell us where Huel is. What happened to Huel? Is he okay? Is he all right? If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and it does really help out the channel. I mostly talk about A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, Dunk and Egg, all that stuff, but if enough people are interested in this, I could see branching out a little bit into more broader media analyses. I have a lot of opinions about a lot of shows. I have a Sopranos theory I've been sitting on for a year and a half at this point, but yeah, the more the merrier. It really helps me out, and I do really appreciate any support on this video and on the channel. Thank you again, and I hope you have a good day. Goodbye, everyone.